What is up guys, it's Cal, and in this video I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the Call of the Scarab event, which lasts from January 21st through the 23rd. So let's get started. First of all, I want to give you guys a little history on what this event is even about. First of all, it's a micro holiday. Blizzard introduced these micro holidays in 7.1.5. This one is the first one. It's the first one of 2017. And what it is it commemorates probably the most memorable time in WoW, which was the server-wide effort to unlock the gates of Encourage. One person on each server completed this entire quest line, which allowed them to bang the gong outside of the gates of AQ to open up the gates of AQ. And some of the things that they had to do is that they had to do a speed run through Blackwing Lair after getting Brood of Nozdormu Rep, which was incredibly hard to do back then. Then they had to get this like 500-pound chicken and collect these pages around the world. Then they had to farm these goggles. Then they had to defeat the green dragon bosses that are around Azeroth. There was just a lot that went into it. And then anyone who rang the gong and anyone within 10 hours after it being rang it got the rarest mount in WoW, which is the Black Karaji Resonating Crystal, which is the Black Scarab mount, which is obviously not in the game anymore. And they got the Scarab Lord title. So as you saw right there, as soon as you enter Silithus, which this is where this all takes place, of course, you get a quest and then you have to turn it in to this NPC. The Horde NPC is right beside him, so don't worry about that. Now I'm going to go over what you have to do, but first I want to go over the main goal of this, and that's getting as many commendations for your faction as possible. And the commendations are region-wide, and this is over the 3 days that it happens. Now whichever faction gets the most commendations by the end of January 23rd has their faction's flag hang from AQ for an entire year until this happens again in 2018. So for what you have to do exactly, as soon as you enter Silithus, you'll be met with a number of world quests. You can do this, all these mobs are scaled to 110 by the way, so you can do this at 100. It is a way to get experience if you want to do that. But you essentially have to complete the various world quests and they get you the commendations for your faction, which you can see at the top of the screen there. Horde are currently winning on our region. Now I recommend doing these world quests in a group. It makes them much easier, you can get commendations faster. But I'm going to show you the world quest which I kind of recommend doing first. It's called Silithist, which is kind of in the middle of Silithus. You have to return 5 Silithists to the Alliance or Horde Collector, whichever faction you're on of course, and that will award you 100 commendations. And just to be clear, these commendations are not personal currency. This was something that a lot of people were asking in general chat. They just go straight to that number at the top of your screen. Now for this world quest, you're going to go to the location where it shows on your map, and you'll find mounds on the ground. You'll find these geysers. You'll be able to interact with them. You click on them. You cannot mount, by the way, after you click on them. Well, you can mount, but you'll lose the buff. So you don't want to lose the buff. You want to pick up a Silithist and then go to your collector, your respective collector. I am showing you on the screen now where the Alliance one is. If you do have coordinates, it's at 39, 46. The Horde is kind of on the opposite side. Theirs is closer to Hive Regal, while Alliance is closer to Hive Zora. And you just step on the teleporter, and then it gives you a 5% damage buff, and that will stack 5 times. So just keep going back, pick up a Silithist, and then go to that teleporter looking thing. And then after you do that, you get to the 100 commendations for your faction, plus a 25% damage buff. The second main world quest can be done at any of the Twilight camps around Silithus. First, what you want to do is you're going to kill the humanoids around there, and they will drop Twilight Cultist cowls, they'll drop Twilight Cultist robes, and they will drop Twilight Cultist mantles. And those do stack in your inventory, so they won't take up a lot of space because they semi-frequently drop them. Now once you get each of these, you want to equip them. Well, not really equip, you right click on them and it puts a buff on you, 24-hour buff. And you want to make sure you have all 3 because there are these crystals around which you can click and you can summon an elemental to kill. Now if you don't have all 3 of the cultist Twilight buffs, then well this happens. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. Now once you have all 3 of the cultist buffs up, go to a lesser windstone and then click on it, and you can summon an elemental which can be soloed. So you're going to kill it and it will drop an Abyssal Crest for you. Now this is why it's a very good idea to do this in a group, is because these Abyssal Crests can be used as currency to purchase 2 items from the vendor that you saw at the very beginning when you turn that first original quest in, and each item summons a big boss for a group to kill, which I'll actually get to that later on. But you want to hold on to these Abyssal Crests. If you're doing this in a group, you want to designate one person to hold them all, because you can actually toss the Abyssal Crests to a party member, so one person can pretty much hoard them all. Also, one thing to note is that when you click on any of these lesser windstones to summon an elemental, it takes off one of your clothing buffs. So you do have to reapply that buff. So it might take off your robe buff, it could take off your mantle buff, whichever one it takes off, just go back in your bags. Or you might need to, kill more cultist dudes around to pick up more of these buffs, and then just reapply that same buff, because you don't want to, as I said before, you don't want to click any of these crystals without having all three of them up. Now, periodically, as you're in Silithus, there will be these boss world quests that appear, where there are these Colossus giant bugs that appear by the hives. When you approach the hive, you'll definitely be able to see the boss. Now, these bosses have around like 750 million health, so yeah, you do need to be in a raid group to kill these. But the good thing about them is that if your group wipes, then he doesn't reset. His health doesn't go back to full. Now, the only move that these guys have, which you do need to look out for, is called Colossus Smash, I think, where it pretty much punts everyone around him back like hundreds of yards. So use the walls of the hide to not get punted back that far, but if you do, you can just mount up and run back to him, or fly back to him. Now, each of these colossal dudes do, of course, give you commendations for your faction. Also, one thing to know, which I kind of forgot to mention at the beginning, is that all of these world quests do give you Cenarian Circle rep. So if you're not exalted with them, this is a very good way to get exalted with them. Now, there's only two more things to talk about with this micro holiday. Let's talk about the gathering supplies one first, because that's a little minor one. Is that when you were at the NPC at the beginning, which you turned that first quest into, there was an NPC right beside him which had a repeatable question mark quest over his head. Stumbling over my words here. You can turn 20 of different meats from different expansions, essentially, and it gives you 20 commendations for your faction. So there's Sandworm meat, which is from Silithus zone mobs. There's Crunchy Spider Legs, which is from level 20 to 30 mobs. Chilled Meat is from Wrath Beasts. Rocklisk Tails are from Cataclysm Beasts. Raw Tiger Steak, Pandaria Beasts. Raw Clefthoof Meat are from Draenor Beasts. And Lean Shanks are from Legion Beasts. Turn 20 of them into Master Sergeant Fizzlebolt or Warlord Gorchok for the 20 commendations for your faction. And the final thing this micro holiday to talk about are the Abyssal Crests. Yeah, remember those where I talked about you should probably have one person in your raid group pretty much hoarding them all? Well, with 250 of them, or 1,000 of them, you can summon 2 boss mobs. You just talk to that NPC at the beginning, which you kind of just saw me talk to, and you can buy a Twilight Cultist Medallion of Station for 250 Abyssal Crests, or Twilight Cultist Ring of Lordship for 1,000 Abyssal Crests. And then once you have those, if you just have the 251, you can go to a normal Windstone in any of the Twilight camps to summon that mob, which has less health than the other one, obviously, since this one's only 250, the other one's 1,000. But then you can go to a greater Windstone to summon either of the bosses. And you do need to have all 3 of those cultist buffs that we were talking about before to summon them. Now, these mobs do scale depending on how many people attack them. So I remember that the 1,000 Abyssal Crest boss had like, I think 500 million health after pretty much everyone in their group attacked him. I forget how much the other one had, but obviously it was less. And someone can correct me on this, but I believe if your group wipes on them, then it does disappear and you lose out on those Abyssal Crests. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they're not very difficult to kill anyway. And then once you kill them, the 250 Abyssal Crest one will give everyone in the group a 200 commendation quest to turn in, and the 1000 Abyssal Crest one will give everyone in the raid group a 500 commendation quest to turn in. So that's a lot of commendations for your faction. Are those quests repeatable? Not 100% sure, because I only killed each of them once. I would assume not, just because, if they were, you'd probably just want to farm the 250 Abyssal Crest boss, because, you get more commendations that way. So I'm just now remembering there's actually one more thing that you can do to get commendations for your faction, and that's doing the Runes of AQ and the Temple of AQ. So AQ 20 and AQ 40, which are soloable, by the way, by 110s, or 100s even. You don't have to kill all the bosses, you can just run straight to the last boss. The Runes of AQ gives your faction 100 commendations, and then AQ 40 gives your faction 150 commendations. So that is it, guys. That is the entire guide on what to do for this holiday. So you have a few days to do it. I really like these micro holidays that Blizzard put in. Puts a lot more, it adds a lot more to the game. There's one like almost every month, I don't know. But they are very fun. I don't think any of them give like pets or mounts, because you don't have a lot of time to do these, but they might. I know this one doesn't. This one that mainly gives you Cenarian Circle Rep and then bragging rights for an entire year for your faction, because as I said at the beginning of this video, it puts a flag draped down of AQ of your faction. So that's it, guys. If this video is helpful at all to you, you can leave a like on it, you can sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.